Hey, it's your financial maven, Samantha M, Besnoff, CPA, and after almost 25 years in the accounting world, I've decided to share my insights and passion about money. Knowing your money and hopefully feeling less stress about your money is what I call being financially empowered. Welcome to the Your Financial Maven podcast. Welcome to the Your Financial Maven podcast. On this episode, I am so excited to have with me an award-winning author and financial educator, Prince Dykes. Thank you so much for joining me. You are a managing partner of the Royal Investment Group. You're the co-founder of the Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation, a published author of a father and son series of financial literacy book, Wesley Learns. You have 3 out already, Wesley Learns to Invest, Wesley Learns About Credit, Wesley Learns About Insurance, and your 4th book actually is coming out soon with Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, which is Wesley Learns About Real Estate. So that's really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. You also are the founder and host of the weekly financial literacy podcast, The Investor Show. And I think you said you have at least 20,000 weekly listeners, which is awesome. You are a financial contributor for GoBankersRates.com and ThinkTech Hawaii. And you're a retired U.S. Navy chief. So welcome, Prince. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. Definitely glad to be here.
So before we really get into the nuts and bolts of the interview here, I wanted to ask you, what is money?
What is money? Money is in exchange for time, in my opinion. You know, when you have money, you have options that it gives you more time. Because some people think that, hey, we do all this to make more money. But guess what? When you make more money, what you going to do with all this money? It's going to give you the time to do what you like and what you're passionate about. So to me, I look at money as time to do what you like and what you're passionate about.
Oh, I love that. A lot of people say it's a tool. Money is a tool, but I love that idea about time because you're right. It gives you flexibility and the ability to do things.
It's a tool to give me my time back.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We have the time. We have some money to do that, what we need to do. And that works. I love that. So I do want to talk a little bit more about your foundation. I want to know, how did you start the Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation? What's the meaning behind it and where things are with it now going forward?
As you previously stated, I just retired from the Navy about 6 months ago. I did 20 years.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. And while I was in the military, I did author 2 children's books. I did Wesley Learns to Invest and Wesley Learns About Credit, which is titled behind my son. When I was going through this, people say, hey, you should make this a nonprofit, things like that, because I had it for profit. People mentioned that, and I decided, okay, you're right. Let me go follow your advice. And Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation, alongside one of my military veterans as well, Chad Davis, we started that back in 2017. And our ultimate goal is for every kid in America to have an investment account.
Oh, I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's great for kids.
And what we do now is we pretty much essentially introduce kids to investing and finance, these topics. There's talk about investing, credit, insurance, real estate, and we turn kids into first-time shareholders of stock. So we moved here to Denver. NFL Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, he decided, hey, I really like what you guys are doing. You want to collaborate with us? And we have sponsors that come in, sponsors that came in and help support our book launch and help support us to give books and stocks to kids. So not only do we want to introduce kids to these items and teach kids at the youngest age, we also want to give them something that's tangible. And we used to give out individual stocks to kids, but now we give out the S&P 500 index because, I don't want to be the person that was giving out blockbuster stock. That it was
right.
Blockbuster
was that stuff.
It was so cool back in the day.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to invest the kids into America. So that's what we do now. And we're launching our 4th book during Financial Literacy Month, which is April, at the Denver Broncos Boys and Girls Club. And we're going to be stopping at 2 schools along the way as well. So foundation, we're always looking for sponsors, donors who like what we do and who more importantly wants to get behind what we do.
Yeah, and I think it's important. And I think you're right. Talking to kids at a young age, even at 1 and 2 years old, they can understand, if you show them a dollar bill and you're buying something for them, they can see it. As they get older, you help them with some comprehension.
How many times you gotten older and you understood something that you didn't understand when you was younger? It started to click later on like, wow.
Absolutely.
Sense now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because when I was growing up, I watched my dad. I watched my mom with money. And so, yeah, it didn't really stick until I got older.
I tell people, I don't expect the kid to read the book and turn into Warren Buffett overnight. But I want them to spark the interest at the youngest age, because it doesn't matter what facet you go into life, whether you become an entertainer, an athlete, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, whatever, it doesn't matter. You will have to know about investing. You have to know about credit. You have to know about real estate. You will have to know about insurance, but nobody tells you about it. Everybody just waits until you fall into it. So instead of pointing our finger at the school system and politicians and things like that, we took the mentality of, hey, we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I have to tell you, and I know I'm in the rarity, with friends and family. Some of my friends do this, but I've talked to my boys about everything with money. I have shared with them how much my husband and I make. I've shared with them when we had a mortgage, what that consisted of. And I have people go, why do you talk to them about that? They're going to share it. I'm like, honestly, they need to know. They need to know. My older son, before he went off to college, he looked at us and was like, how did you understand all this? And we were both like, trial by fire, because we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I do. You have to talk to kids about this. It's important. I agree.
And the unfortunate thing about America today, it all depends upon what family you was blessed to be born into.
Yeah, very true.
I can talk to them blue in the face. Samantha, you could talk to your blue in the face to a child. And there have been instances where I tried to give a child stocks or, things like that. But the parents, they maybe have a sketchy background where they can't open up a brokerage account, things like that. So that's very unfortunate, because the child is not their fault. But America, that's how we're set up now. We're set up to hey, if you're lucky enough to have an uncle and an auntie and a mom that introduces you to this and open up you an investment account and teaches you about money, good for you. But if you're not, then, sorry. So that's one thing our foundation is doing, is to say, hey, let's even the playing field when they walk in, because everybody goes to kindergarten. And maybe an entity could be the custodian for every child. So right now, that's just how we're set up. But hey, that's what the Global Children's Financial Literacy Foundation is about.
I love it. I love it. And in fact, I think you just recently had something about the financial ABCs and talking about kindergartners and S&P 500 and getting it out there. And I agree. I think that it's fabulous to teach these kids. They can't understand the complexities of the stocks or things like that, but the basics.
And when I was speaking about the ABCs, that was kind of like my thing about, hey, what if schools, when you walked into kindergarten, had an investment account for children and invested in for kids? Because everybody waits until you turn 18, then you get so many scholarships. Or if you don't get scholarships, then, hey, guess what? We got student loans for you. Everybody wants to help you out when you're 18 and 19 years old. But what about the kindergarten? We know they will need a house. We know they're going to need a car. We know they're going to need to further their education, but nobody does anything. So all I'm saying is that, hey, what if we redirect the funding to kindergartners? And that was the ABC of finances of, and the reason why, no particular reason, you have as you already know, you have broad-based indexes like the S&P 500, NASDAQ, and you have the Dow Jones. And, me being a big Buffett fan and listening to him, he always says, hey, just get your broad-based index, S&P 500. So, I don't know what company is going to be the best in the next 20 years. You got to think about it. 20 years ago, Uber wasn't even here. Facebook wasn't.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
All these new tech companies that are really pushing the markets forward wasn't even here 20 years ago.
Which is wild. I mean, that also lends itself to the whole digital world. I mean, if you think about it from financial literacy, it's not just about sitting down with a paper check and writing out that check. A lot of kids can't sign their names because they're not learning cursive in school as much.
That's true.
So how does all this, with what you're doing also from a digital aspect, when you talk to parents about that and you're working with the S&P, what do you see from that aspect of the digital world with finances?
Oh, the digital world is that the older generation, the more seasoned generation, I like to say,
yes.
they suffer from not having enough information. My dad told me I had a great father. He said, son, he was a school teacher. He said, son, I didn't know I could invest with my kids. I didn't know you could do that. My generation, I'm from Georgia originally. I would have had to drive 2.5 hours up to Atlanta, find a stockbroker. I'd had to have a minimum to invest. I'm living off a school teacher salary with 4 kids. I need to have a minimum. I got to invest this much. And then when I invest, I don't even know what's going on. Now I got to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. So there's a lot of hurdles. So this new generation, they have everything at their fingertips. They can find out today how much Apple is, how much Apple costs, how much it went over the past 2 years. They got the financials at their fingertips. Everything is at their fingertips. And now they suffer from too much information. So when they get on their phone, you got TikTok going, Instagram going, you got Twitter.
Absolutely.
In my generation, you had to wait to Saturday to get cartoons. Now kids, they get cartoons when they feel like it. So kids now, they have so much information. They're paralyzed. They don't know what to do. It's hard to get on a path and stay there when every second someone is telling you a new way to get rich. hey, you got this way to get rich. Oh, this person got rich. Oh, this person got rich this way. So now they get to spreading their stuff around so far. They don't even know what to go, so they become paralyzed.
And the consequences of that too, because there's tax consequences with that. And there could be misinformation. And when you're investing and you're selling and buying stock, you've got to pay attention.
And that's a whole nother level. You've been an accountant.
Yeah.
You already know that.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm gains. That's what people are not being told. So some people they don't know it's so much information. They don't know what's real, what's bad, what's good, who's doing what. So now the younger generation has too much information, whereas the older generation didn't have enough information.
And the rest of us are sandwiched in between.
Exactly. You're like, well, do I do this or do I do that? But I always tell people I'm not a very mechanical guy. You're not going to catch me in my garage on the weekend changing out my alternator or anything like that. But guess what? I'm not going to let my car just die. I'll find someone who's good at it. I'll find a mechanic or I'll find a barber to cut my hair or whatever. So I tell people, hey, if you don't know, look out there, find someone you can trust and know, and seek out to them.
Yeah, because there's a lot of resources to determine, like you're credentialed, uncredentialed. You want to talk to people who, I'm not saying someone who isn't credentialed doesn't know what they're talking about, but they may not have the resources or have education enough to know some of the fine tuning of things. So you've got to find someone that really is paying attention to all that because it's important.
And that's the hard part too, is that I've noticed this with people like, you're like, hey, I have my first $500,000. I'm ready to invest. And they go out, they become ready to invest. And mostly in this industry, the personal financial people, if you got $1,000, they won't even waste your time with. You're going to say, hey, call me back when you get to 20,000, 25,000. How am I supposed to get to 25,000?
Yeah. I have 1,000 to start. Where do I go?
Yeah, I have 1,000 today. What do I do today? And most clients are like, I can't take you on as a client. You at least got to have 10, 25, 30,000. That's something that I noticed too in the industry of, hey, what do you do if you're like, hey, I'm just starting. I want to get started. So I always tell people, hey, if you don't try to go out and play wild-nilly or whatever, but get that S&P 500, keep investing to that particular point. And if you're young, eventually you will get to that point.
Yeah. And it's also the same, especially for kids. I say kids getting started out in the workforce. If you're given the option of like a 401k, max that out too. You can invest, but get your retirement also.
The deeper thing is, most people don't even know what a 401k is.
This is true.
But I remember when I left home 2 weeks after graduating high school and went into the Navy, and I got this 401k put in front of me. They said, hey, you got the C fund, the I fund, the J fund. I'm like, what are you talking about? And you can save or what is this stuff? I don't know what you're talking about. So that was the underlying issue, when I was going to school for my MBA and I started to learn, and I learned all these things. Why nobody taught me about this, knowing I'm going to be faced with this?
Right. And that's the point is, again, nothing against our parents or the older generation. It's just not what they did. But I think it is important we have an opportunity now to share with the young kids, share with our young adults, and not be afraid. It's not a taboo to talk about money, in my opinion. It shouldn't be a taboo.
In their generation, you actually could save and make money.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very true.
Put your money into a savings account and make 3, 4, 5%, sometimes 6% on savings. Interest rates were higher compared to what they are now. Now, in the last year or two, we're getting higher interest rates. But we lived in a low interest rate society for like 20 years. So my parents told me to stay. They said, save your money, work on a job, and retire one day. You look in today, it's not too many people doing 20, 30 years on the same exact company.
No, well, my husband is, but we'll be celebrating about 29 years this summer, but it's rare.
The old generation, hey, I worked at Ford for 30 years and I saved my money and now I retired. That was the old thing. Now you're given a 401k and every 2 to 3 years, you are getting a new job. The onus is put upon you. They're saying, hey, we're not matching and we're not going to be your pension plan. You got to go figure it out. It's very few fields besides maybe like the military, maybe being a school teacher or maybe governmental positions that you're going to.
I was going to say government, yeah.
20, 30 years to say, hey, I'm going to do this until I retire. And now that's pushed upon the kids. And I had a conversation with, I'm embarrassed, I can't remember his name. He said, hey, I created the 401k to be a leg of your investment, not to be the entire retirement. It's supposed to be just a leg, that along with savings and your pension.
And insurance, right? I'm also a life insurance agent besides a CPA. And I think needs to be that leg of the life insurance because I don't think people realize that, Like my husband has made this comment, oh, I've got life insurance through my job. Well, what if you left that job? That life insurance doesn't go with you.
Very true.
You
Very
need
true.
to have your own life insurance with a life insurance agent, a company, and review it every year too. So that's another leg. You've got the retirement, you've got the stocks and the investment, you've got the insurance and the savings. And I have people say, well, I can't, I don't have enough money. Put something away, even if it's $10. Just, you got to start somewhere for that habit to grow.
So when I did a children's book on insurance 5 years ago, people thought I was crazy.
Oh, I love it. Oh.
We'll have to bring this conversation down to a child, because the financial industry is the only industry that I know of, at least, that you have to educate people before you even can sell them a product.
You're right.
A barber doesn't have to say, hey, listen, this is why you should get a haircut. You can't say, hey, this is why you need to get your oil changed. A school teacher will say, hey, this is why you need to go to school. The financial industry, you have to say, okay, so this is insurance and this is why you need it. You have to explain it so before you even can think about purchasing a product. So I look at it and say, hey, let's educate kids now, introduce them to these topics now. So when they become 18, they're just looking for the insurance product. They're looking for the accountant. They're looking for the financial advisor, investment product, if they want to go that route. And they know what's out there. They're just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Instead of being in that dark area, which I call the black area, which is the unknown that you don't know,
Yeah, you're right. You don't know what you don't know. And I think this whole thing with financial literacy is so important. I think in the state of Pennsylvania now, there was a law that was passed that kind of makes it more so for financial literacy. And I have to say, like, my school district, they did with junior achievement through like 5th through 8th grade, they did some stuff. They talked to the kids about writing checks, how businesses run. And then in high school, they did have a financial literacy program, but in my view, it wasn't substantive enough and follow through. Because these kids also, if they're going out in the workforce, going into college, going into the military, going into 2-year schools, where's the follow through also for them? And if they have your foundation with your books and everything, if they have that start, I think that will help them.
It should definitely be from K through 12. Like I sit on the board here in Colorado, we revised the standards for financial literacy from K through 12. So we have the standards, but we don't enforce the standards. It's up to the school to decide. So we wrote down standards saying K through 12, this is what you should know. And we have these resources, but we leave it to the school to say, hey, pick up these resources. So with my vision, ultimate vision is to say, hey, we should have investment accounts for kindergartners, and they have to take a K through 12 financial literacy course. If they successfully graduate high school, they successfully take the courses, and they successfully have a clean record, this account becomes theirs. Much like a custodian account, that's our thing of like, we're giving you the education, but we're making it tangible at the same time. And we have the resources and money. Every year we give out how much money, every state at least have grants that they give kids. The federal government give out grants, corporations give out scholarships. Everybody does it for 18-year-olds, but nobody does it to kindergartners.
Right, to help them have a leg up from the start.
And then on top of that too, because guess what? If you and I create a scholarship program today, and we said, we'll give out $50,000 a year, sounds awesome in 2024. Fast forward to 2044, that $50,000 is probably going to buy 3 books, just due to inflation. So it's some scholarship programs that are literally going bankrupt, or they're losing their impact because they used to give out $3,000 every year, in the 80s, and that was a great thing in the 80s.
And I can tell from personal experience with 2 kids in college, it is just crazy how much college costs.
But think about it, we had invested $50,000 into a child, and it has 12 years to grow. What that money could grow into an amount of 12 years if we averaged out 8% a year. And to say, hey, now I don't know the particular math, let's say if it grew 60,000, 70,000, something like that, that's actually saving me money as a corporation, because instead of me now increasing my contributions 5% every year, I could be on the opposite end and be making maybe 5, 6, 8% a year. So
yeah. It's an interesting thing to think about. So is there anything else with your books or the foundation or the things that you do as a financial educator that you'd love to share with my listeners?
Yes. If you're a parent, start your kids at the youngest age possible, get them an investment account, as soon as possible. If you don't know how to do it, reach out to somebody like Samantha. She will definitely put you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
If that's the case, also, like she said, start building your credit for your children, start looking to insurance for your children at the youngest age possible. And if you're a child, go out and It's not much you can do at this particular time. I know you're probably flooded with so much information.
Right.
You guys out there, you guys have more information because you can go onto social media and find your favorite YouTuber, Instagrammer, podcast, or something like that. And definitely check out the Weston Learns book series.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Investing, credit, insurance, and now coming up on real estate.
Which I love.
Definitely, something like that, a fun, friendly way to introduce it to kids. And, by the time they're 6 years old, we have a cartoon as well.
Oh, cool. And I will definitely leave links for the Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation, links to the books because, I'm sure they can find them anywhere, but I'm still going to have a direct link for you. And just everything that you've talked about today has been awesome. So money is time. I love that.
Oh, yeah, money is time. Yeah. And definitely thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
And feel free to reach out. If you want to support the foundation, feel free to do that on the website. You want, something else, you just reach out to us.
No, I appreciate it. Prince, this has been awesome. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Your Financial Maven, and I want to hear from you. Feel free to leave me your insights and money stories or questions that you may have about money. You can visit www.yourfinancialmavenpodcast.com and click on the I Want to Hear From You tab. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about money. The purpose of this podcast is to provide general information on the subjects discussed. It is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. You should consult your CPA, accountant, or tax professional for all of your specific financial needs or situations. Your Financial Maven is hosted and produced by Samantha M. Besnoff, CPA, and Your Financial Maven, LLC. Editing is done by Kris Zarnoch of KMZen Creative. Music is written, composed, and performed by Daniel Shore.